have to see how that works out in terms of the synergy with the rest of the team. And then we look at the other side of Cyborg Factory and honestly stress, we don't know much about them, and neither do the teams. These are the unknown wildcard factor coming into this tournament.
Yeah, I think it's only if you've played with them, played against them, that you really have any idea of what Cyborg Factory are going to do coming into this. I know that I was watching earlier this week a Challenger chat where Freeze was talking about, you know, Cyborg Factory, especially now with the changes to Meloncats, could do well in this first round. They're a team from, I believe it's the Czech Republic, who, if Freeze is saying they could stand a chance against this kind of lineup, maybe we'll see a second upset of the day.
Yeah, but we're not heading into this being like Cyborg Factory are amazing or they're not very good. We just don't know. And that is an unknown factor that Meloncats don't want to have to deal with, plus having to deal with the top lane issue. This is a lot of things to juggle at the same time as we get ready for Champion Select.
But there are some familiar faces on Meloncats. Let's not forget that there are players with a fair amount of experience here that I'm sure we'll get into as we head further towards the game.
Yes, indeed. So, in terms of bans, what are we looking for here? And you mentioned very briefly about some of the players you may know from this lineup. We're looking at Gilius primarily. You may have seen him, in fact, playing in Worlds, and he's one of only 2 players in the entire EU LCS expansion tournament who has experience in Worlds, the other one being Ocelot. So it's interesting to see how he'll bring that very top-level play and his experience there into the EU LCS expansion.
And then down in the bottom lane as well, another player with a lot of experience, at least in the challenger scene, is Dude, who for the best part of 2014's Gamers 2 lineup was in that bottom lane role alongside Yuki. So can Dude transition with a very similar named AD carry of Crikey? Maybe it's the name synergy. Maybe that's what
maybe that's how he selects his AD carries. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he also fits into this lineup. But or see how it all meshes together because we've picked apart some of the players. We have to see how it all works in game and indeed in Champion Select.
So, what have we heard about Meloncat's top lane now? What I've personally heard is that he's only really been learning a handful of champions at that. In top lane, we've already emphasized how important that is, so Meloncats have got a big void to fill right now, and I know that Zaclipse, who is the player that is standing in, has been playing Maokai. You would imagine he'd have to be playing Irelia, and then Meloncats, when on red side, of course, are going to be banning out Nah anyway, so if you ban out Maokai and Irelia, what do you leave Zaclipse on to actually play in this game? And honestly, there's not a lot of transition between support champions and top laners.
Yeah, and you look at Cyborg Factory and it's like, what do they decide to ban? Because you mentioned that Nah is typically the red side ban as your last ban, but if you know the enemy top laner is not a top laner and he's only got like a couple champions in his arsenal, do you perhaps even leave Nah open and say, well, you have to pick it because Nah's open or we'll take it from red side?
That's a tough ask, is you have to then put a player onto a champion in a role he doesn't play, in a champion that is very new to the game. And how do you balance that? Nah's not even the easiest champion to play. We saw yesterday with the game from Ascension that we really couldn't get Whirly into the game with Nah until very, very late on. And even then, it was a bit touch and go.
It was, and they decided to pick Hecarim into that one. And while it worked for a while, we just saw eventually that composition just kind of wins out because it is just that strong. You land one combo and it's all over. But we head into this game. And are we going to be seeing another Nah? Because traditionally we say, well, Nah's going to be banned every single game. Why would we see that? But in this case, it might be a potential gambit coming in from Cyborg Factory.
Yeah, the problem I have with that is if Meloncats don't ban out Nah, then you put even worse of a situation. It's bad enough having to play a champion you don't play. Playing against a lane bully in a lane you don't play with a champion you don't play on another champion that you don't play is almost suicide. And Meloncats, I feel, have to pick Zaclipse. Something like a Mundo, which is fairly passive, doesn't exactly have the highest skill cap to play and kind of just scales throughout the game. We're not going to see anything all that tricky out from Meloncats. But how do Cyborg Factory pressure that out? Because you have to feel that Gilius and Dude are going to be some big playmakers here in this game. But let's not overlook Meloncats mid laner as well.
Yeah, so he's actually got some very interesting picks in comparison to the rest of his team. We did a little bit of research ourselves on these players and fairly standard meta picks across the board. We talked about top lane and how there are a lot of meta picks, but he may not play them all. But in the mid lane, he likes his Fizz, he likes his talent as well. Plus, some of the more traditional mid laners like Xerath as well. But definitely in the mid lane, his champion pool varies from some of the other mid laners we've seen recently.
Yeah, indeed. And we've already spoken about how he kind of plays a lot of Fizz, expecting that if they had their standard top laner, you could very well synergize that with a Lissandra pick, something that has that wave clear, like a Victor as well. That's something we've kind of been seeing allowed into the mid lane, is those wave clearless champions like Fizz. But if a barrier goes for a Fizz and Eclipse isn't confident up in that top lane role, it's such a game changer.
It is indeed. So we've touched a lot on Meloncats. We've already mentioned that Cyborg Factory, definitely this random factor heading into this game. So what do they do in terms of target bans? Because maybe it should be something that's left open by Cyborg Factory. That takes away a ban from Meloncats if they decide that's what they want to be banning away here. And then where do those other two bans go? Have they done their homework? Do they target it at someone in specifically? Or do they just do general meta picks or things they don't like to play against?
So, we are ready. We're heading into the picks and bans phase. Let's take a look at what Meloncats and Cyborg Factory have for us in our last game to decide who is going through to round 2 for the EU LCS expansion tournament.
All right, so taking quite a while on this first ban from Meloncats, but they will be locking in the Fresh to ban that one away here. So a fairly ambiguous ban, but for sure at the bottom lane support of Taki.
There goes the Aurelia. That's one of 2 that we know Meloncats have been training Eclipse on. And there's the Gnar ban. We saw it on blue side a little earlier this week, today with our broadcast. And man, this is going to be looking like a tough situation for Eclipse already.
So at least they did manage to take away the Gnar. Here comes a Jace ban coming in for the mid lane to take that one away from a barrier. Again, we didn't mention it, but it is another champion in his very wide and unconventional champion pool.
Yes, it is indeed. Third ban coming out from Meloncats, another bottom lane focused ban. Not one we've seen out all that much, but this kind of signals to me like they're looking for a Corki first pick.
Yeah, so Lucian comes out here as a ban. Lee Sin will be rounding out the banning phase. And we did see a lot of Lucian Corki yesterday, and hello, Eclipse will be locking in the Maokai. This is again the other pick that you mentioned before, Stress, that he has been training. So they took away the Irelia, forces him onto the Maokai. What does that leave Cyborg Factory to pick into something they basically knew he was going to pick?
I think at this point, Cyborg Factory take the Corki, and we saw Corki first pick earlier today. Lucian not available. And I honestly feel like Cyborg Factory, if they had the information of what Eclipse was playing, a good decision by them to ban out the Lee Sin, because then it forces them to take the Maokai or they take it away. But if they don't take out Corki from this lineup, Meloncats are kind of going to be given some fairly strong laners already. Yeah,
so Cyborg Factory actually decided to lock in the Janna, so they make sure they take away that high priority support, bring in the Kha'Zix as well. Lee Sin was banned out, Rengar was also up there, along with the Jarvan even if they wanted to go for that, but they did prioritize the Kha'Zix. And as you mentioned, didn't take away the Corki. And do Meloncats decide to go for this one themselves?
Well, it looks like they decided to go back to the lobby for a sec, because it must have had a client bug, as couldn't pick a champion. That tends to be
bit of a problem when you head into champion select. You do want to be able to pick your own champion, not just have to random brand and see how it goes.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too good. That's not what you want. Although it would have actually been right for a barrier, because it was the mid laner that they were looking for.
That would have been a mid lane.
Maybe it's in his picks. Who knows? Yeah. I would doubt it. Brand hasn't seen a lot of competitive play ever.
No, he has not. And well, he did back in season 2, if memory serves correctly.
Yeah, okay.
And he brand all day, every day.
True. I guess I should have said in the bot lane.
Yeah, that's true. Annie Brand.
Okay.
Strong bot lane.
We've also been told that Meloncats wanted Nami Corki in that kind of tier of picks. So that makes a lot of sense. That's kind of what we were expecting. We were expecting the Corki to go over to Meloncats. So we should get this started fairly soon, as fast as the Meloncats lineup are able to get back onto the client and into the game. But it has been a wild day.
It has. It has for you, at least. I've not been casting, so I'm full of energy and watching all those games unfold. Stress, absolutely crazy.
I lost my mind about 4 times during both series today because, man, we had everything. We had steals, we had comebacks, we had a big upset. If you guys missed any of the VODs from today, make sure you do check them out here on the channel. And there were some amazing games.
Yeah.
Really, truly amazing games being played today.
All of those will be available on LOL Esports. And also, while we're at it, tweet at us at LOL Esports using the hashtag LCS Expansion. Get your thoughts on how you think this series is going to go and chat about how all the rest of the games went as well today. And we will be reading those when we get into the break. But more importantly, we're back into Champion Select picks and bans. We'll be going through the bans very quickly, and then we'll get the rest of the picks underway.
Hopefully they'll fly through this one. That would be good. Yeah, okay, good. They are going to not take their time on this one because we are itching to see what the rest of these lineups are going to be. So to recap, Maokai up in the top lane has been picked up. Janna and Kha'Zix on the side of Cyborg Factory, with the last 2 so far being Nami and Corki, which, to be honest, not a surprise to anybody. Corki has seen such a power spike in recent times. Ever since Worlds, just seen how strong Corki is in the mid-game, great at sieging towers, sieging objectives.
Indeed. So, they're hovering over the Ryze. They did actually hover over Ryze in their first rotation, but didn't decide to lock it in. Again, they're toying with the idea.
I don't think they should, because remember, Ryze had a big nerf to his overload damage during every level. I believe it's something like 20 at level rank 1, and then 25, 30, 35, and 40 damage was reduced off everything. And that really impacts Ryze's laning phase, who, up until that nerf, was a very strong laner in the top lane, but not anymore. He certainly cannot put up as much of a fight.
It's possible they may just lock this in regardless. Maybe that's something part of their top laner's champion pool that hasn't really changed as of recent days. And they do hover over that Tristana. We do have the Lucian, of course, taken away. And while we've been talking about the Ryze, they do solidify that pick, lock that in alongside the Tristana.
I'm worried for Cyborg Factory right now. They have a big mid-game dip that is going to get exploited by Meloncats already. You look at a Corki power in the mid-game. Maokai is great for absorbing damage in the mid-game fights as well as the late game. Tristana has that natural dip, and her laning phase probably is not as strong as they need to go against a Corki and Nami. And then Ryze has had that damage fall off as well. So this is an older composition. This is what we were expecting going into Worlds, but what came out of Worlds was a fair amount different.
And it's worth mentioning that, of course, Cyborg Factory are coming in from the EUNE side of things, so their meta is going to be a little bit different here. So they do go with this one. I know their meta is different, but I don't think it's got different. So we look at Meloncats here. They do decide to lock in the Jarvan. Touched briefly on that before as kind of the top trifecta of junglers coming into the new season. And Zed as well will be coming in for a barrier.
Yes, Zed, a champion that was left available, and a barrier does play Zed. We know that was in our research for him as a mid laner, and we're going to see a skill matchup here, as it's going to be the RE-Zed matchup once again. So all about the charm. If you can charm before Zed darts away to his shadows, you could be alright in that matchup, but other than that, Zed has far more mobility in and around the lane.
So now we have all of these picks locked in. We're looking down the line, looking for any trends here, Stress, that would signal what type of composition these guys are looking for. And we look at Meloncats, and it definitely looks, well, after you see a Maokai, you immediately think in your head, teamfight composition.
You do indeed, and then you add Jarvan on top of that, and these mid-game team fights are should go so well for Meloncats right now. You look at a barrier on Zed, able to pick off one person. Corki has insane burst damage as well. I'm worried for this Cyborg Factory mid-game dip, but can they get any kind of pressure in front of turrets for Cyborg Factory? They have Kha'Zix and Ahri. That's good pick potential, which can set them up fairly well, but when you're looking at pick, the worst thing for that, or to go against that, is, or the best thing, to be honest, is hard engage. The worst thing to play against is hard engage.
That's accurate. So when we look at this lineup, it basically just screams to you, team late game. You get into the late game, you have the resets from Tristana, Kha'Zix, got Ryze thrown in there for the mix, and just all that peel from Janna be very difficult to deal with.
Yes, indeed. But we are into the loading screen, which means we want to hear what you guys have to say.
Yes, indeed. So head over to Twitter and tweet at LOL Esports using the hashtag LCS expansion and get your thoughts over to us before we have this game starting up and get your predictions in, because anything could happen in this series. As we've seen today, we've had upsets, we've had crazy games, we've had super long series, and I hope it doesn't change here.
I really hope it doesn't change, because although I'm going to be really tired at the end of this, it will be so worth it if we get another 3-game series with some epic games, which I really hope is the case.
And we'll be back next week as well with even more crazy games to come up, more even, to use the word again, crazy League of Legends action. So we'll see what happens there, but we're not even there yet, Stress. We have another best of 3 before we end the proceedings. We are just waiting to get into game.
Yeah, crikey, he's loading slow. You won't get that unless you can see my screen, but we are about to head into the game. I'm sorry.
I wasn't expecting it.
Oh dear. It's actually not Corky either that's loading slow. It's Ari. Yeah. Corky was loading a little slow, but you mentioned next week's games, which there are some big teams featuring in next week's games.
Lots of familiar faces coming into this one. H2K, you may have heard of before.
Just a little
except
team.
Everyone in the LoL community. Millennium as well. We'll see how that one pans out as we get into next week. But we should be focusing on this game, Stress, because we have mere seconds before we get onto the Rift.
Yes, indeed. So, still not quite there. It wouldn't be a Europe game without a slow load.
It wouldn't, and I don't want to jinx it, but it wouldn't be a European game without a pause. So, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
We can get over that hurdle.
We're slowly creeping up. We're at 96% now. So, there's the play-by-play of the loading screen. But this is a very important game. We are making light of a situation with the loading screen, but this is game 1 of a best-of-3 series to determine who goes and advances to round 2 and puts them with close range of LCS. That's just a couple of games away, potentially, from a spot in the LCS.
And we will be answering that question of who will be getting one step closer to the LCS as we get onto the Rift. In the bottom left-hand corner, sporting the blue colors, will be Meloncats. Up in the upper right-hand corner, of course, will be Cyborg Factory, hailing from the EU NE server.
So, can our team from the Czech Republic do a good job, or good enough job, to get themselves into the second round? That really is the question.
Well, something that's already apparent to me, Stress, is both these teams are very happy and very happy to ping. They like their pings. I'm not sure how much information that's conveying, but there is a ping on top of that ward, so at least that makes sense. It's going to be the lines of scrimmage. As we head into the first couple seconds of this game, no one looking to make an aggressive play just yet.
It has been a while, and by a while I mean a couple of weeks, but in League meta, that is a while, since we have seen Rise in that top lane. And Meloncats already playing this out as a standard game. They are just putting down the wards early on, and I expect to see Zaclipse get a fair amount of help up in this top lane. I don't think the jungle pressure is too necessary for the matchup as such, but if Gilius can get the ball rolling for Zaclipse, this could be Gilius' path to redemption being sorted from that top lane.
So, everyone sitting in their jungles, we look across at the items as well, and there's not the biggest of differences, but it's interesting to note that there's a lot of biscuits over on the side of Cyborg Factory, one in the top lane. Kind of makes a little bit of sense on Rise, who doesn't like to go deep into the utility mastery Stress. But then you look at mid lane, Ari as well, sporting the biscuits and the bot lane support.
Yes, indeed. Taking a look at the bottom lane, though, Meloncats are pushed up fairly far into this bush, and they're looking to set up that level 2 that we have seen time and time again, and they're actually going to get gifted a bit of an easier start here as well, because take a look at the Cyborg Factory bot lane. They actually started out helping their jungler on the buff, so that is a big misplay when it comes to getting that level 2.
Yeah, in the bot lane, they will be putting down a little bit of pressure, but that Tristana now showing her face. Haven't seen too much of that in the EU LCS expansion tournament. Been a whole lot of Lucian and a whole lot of Corky. Daoud putting down that damage onto Taki. Lots of trading back and forth, but it looks like MC, Meloncats' bottom lane has won out slightly.
And the problem that Cyborg Factory are going to have here is the fact that they don't actually have the sustain from Janna. Nami, on the other hand, is going to heal up Crikey every time they trade and harass. And Tristana has a bad enough end of the laning phase and, you know, mid-game phase as it is, that coming out behind from this laning phase could be problematic.
Oh, bubble lands onto Tristana. Both of the AD carries get exhausted. Will be jumping forward. Uses the heal to get away, but now is he too overextended? He is in a good place. Lots of summoners burn, most of them from the side of Cyborg Factory.
Double summoners from Tristana and the exhaust from both supports. That is a big win in the bottom. Oh, bubble again!
Another Acro Prison followed with the Phosphorus Bomb. First blood, last auto attack by Daoud secures it.
And this is a reason why we haven't seen a lot of Tristana recently. She is just not a safe laner right now, especially against the likes of Corki when paired with a support that has Harass and Sustain. And that is a great start for Meloncats. They're going to say, okay, our top lane may not go the way we want it to, but across the map, we'll take the rest.
Yeah, looking very good for them so far. You mentioned in Champions Select, they are a mid-game focused team against a mid-game dipping team from Cyborg Factory, and this is just setting them up perfectly. Well, Liam goes into the jungle, tries to get something away here. As he looks to counter jungle away from Gilius.
His counterpart, speaking of Gilius, headed into the mid lane.
There's the flag, there's the drag, heads onto Shearge in the mid lane. Flash comes out, lands the passive as well. Last tower shot plus the ignite isn't enough to pick him up in return. The answer is going to be a no. Will be escaping by the Skimmer's teeth. However, Kha'Zix is coming in, but Eclipse roams in from the top lane. Gets the jump over the wall, a smooth 1-0.
And for a top lane, or not a top lane main, Eclipse covering very well for Gilius there. Was not expecting to see him roam down. That was a very nice play out of Gilius to make sure they got that kill, and a great start for Meloncats.
So, looking very happy with this one so far. Gilius head back to the base, well on his way to the Spirits of the Elder Lizard. Bot lane, already you can see the Sightstone picked up by Daoud. Perfect timing on those two item pickups.
Yeah, indeed. Now, Crikey is looking not to push this out too far because they want to exploit Tristana as she always pushes in towards the enemy lane, or the enemy turrets. Crikey wants to make sure that Tristana is as overextended as possible once she gets to the lane, and from there should be a fairly easy pickup for Gilius because no flash available now makes for an easy gank.
How much impact can Gilius make on this game? As we mentioned before, in Champions Select, he has that world experience, of course, subbing in for SK in those first 3 games. And can he use that experience? Can he get this to work out for his team? As Kha'Zix comes into the top lane, will be placing down the Taste of Their Fear, of course, the passive of Unseen Threat, but it wasn't enough threat to do and dish out the damage to Eclipse, who does carry on farming.
Shearge has to be careful in the mid lane. Take a look at Gilius's positioning. He may be looking to set up another gank here, as Ari does not have her flash, remember. If Shearge pushes out here, Gilius could catch her out, but there we go. Does ward up. It's a little bit late, but the thought process is there.
So, we'll be slightly secured here, as a ping goes down into that ward. Gilius, assuming that it may be a pink, might be able to head in here, clear it out. And there comes the flag. That is 100 gold down the drain for the mid lane of Shearge.
Yeah, I mean, no wards were gained from that bubble again.
Again, Iaka Prison, 3 in a row, tic-tac-toe, and it will not be Tristana going down, but takes a huge amount of damage, forces him back to the turret.
This bottom lane, I do not understand why you would pick yourselves into a corner like this, especially when you've picked such a weak top laner right now. And yes, the top lane is not going drastically wrong for Rise, but it certainly is not a comfortable matchup anymore. And my goodness, Cyborg Factory have a lot of confidence getting to the late game if they really think they can compete here against Meloncats using a Tristana.
Left and right, all over the board, everyone is getting punted around by Cyborg Factory, and this is kind of how you would expect on paper these lanes to go, Stress. And it's just working out as intended. Everyone is ahead on farm. Large CS disparity in the bottom lane, but in the mid lane we do have Idiom coming in from the backside. Our barrier, does he have the ability to get away with it? He will head in with this one with the death mark. That will be a dead Kha'Zix as it ticks down. And Shield trying to get something back onto Gilius, but not even close with the damage.
Really nice by Gilius again, and I feel like I'm going to be saying that quite a lot this series. Gilius is a well-experienced player that is starting to set up his mid laner very well, and this is why we see Zed banned out, because he's got a kill and an assist to his name, And this is going to be a very difficult lane if Cyborg Factory want to turn it on its head.
Yeah, he has a lot of experience. Not only was he in Worlds, but also with Unicorns of Love as well as they made their way into the LCS. This time, looking to make his own way into the LCS with his own team. And so far, it's looking like this is a well-trodden path that he's following.
Yes, indeed. And, you know, Gilius has found himself a substitute on a couple of big rosters. You already mentioned SK at Worlds and Unicorns of Love in their promotion game. Funnily enough, against, oh no, that was against Millennium, who is a potential contender. So maybe Gilius could get some revenge on that. But this, as you said, his own team, the problem is they've had that setback, and can Gilius do enough?
So far, looks like he is. 2 kills he has been helping out with in this game, trying to snowball that throughout the early game here, has gone back to base, and talking about snowballing, has opted towards the mobility boot of all items.
He's going to be able to get into lane far more often now, or at least far faster, as Jarvan with mobility boots is fairly difficult to contend with, but that's something that we know from Gilius, is he goes Sightstone, he goes one longsword, and then typically picks up his mobility boots on his junglers.
Right.
And that from there makes him a lot more versatile. A little bit less damage, but that doesn't really matter when you're getting so many of your lanes fed.
So 9 minutes into the game, 3 kills go over to Meloncats. A significant CS advantage in the form of 2,000 gold. You take a look at their warding coverage as well, and it's fairly even over the board. Mid lane, Deathmark comes in, and Sheer is ticking down with the Ignite as well. Stands still, he knows his fate, and will be dropping one-on-one in the mid lane.
1v1 kills are not what you want from your mid laner unless you're the ones getting them. As Zed is now 2-0-1. This lane is going really badly now for Ari. We spoke about it being a skill matchup. Gilius assisted with that. And now from there, he's going to be able to take down a dragon. Let's take a quick look, however, at the damage difference in the bottom lane. Tristana did manage to get a pickaxe, which, when you look at the items right now, you'd think, oh, pickaxe against the makings of a phage. That must be going very well for Tristana. And then you look at the farm and realize that Corki is sat on 2,000 gold right now and hasn't really been pressured out of the lane in a very long time. So he's going to back away pretty soon, I would imagine. Finish up that phage, grab the sheen, and be well on his way to a big power spike.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually getting to the point where he could almost complete a Trinity Force, and as you mentioned, it doesn't look like he's being pressured out of this lane. It's starting to get on the horizon of doubling the farm of his counterpart, which is not a scoreline you see every day.
Really is not, and especially when you'd expect these to be somewhat close.
So you just get pinned to the wall by this monsoon, but Kha'Zix is a little bit too far away. There comes the tidal wave, we'll be knocking them back. Ebb and flow, is it enough to keep him alive? Yes it is, plus the health potion. So lots of ultimates burned, and the jungler time yields no results.
Nothing really for it, and I mean, you look at this kind of setup, Crikey is going to be able to clear this wave fairly quickly, but top lane, let's take a look.
Gilius comes in with the flag and drag, doesn't decide to use his ultimate, had the flash as well if he wants to use it, but didn't connect the big CC movement. That will signal for Gilius to head out.
It will indeed, but gets the pretty... Ooh, I thought that charm may have connected there. Ping's going down wildly onto the jungle on the lower side, but Gilius is headed back up top again. He stood on a ward though, so I don't expect Rise to fall from this.
He's now heading all the way around to the back of the turret. He's just looking for the dive regardless. He's sticking around. Here's the flang and drag. And Eclipse will just pop his ultimate. Tanks the tower as well, just in case Gilius wants to make a speedy exit. But Idiom now heads into the top lane. See if he can clear out the minion wave. But now he's just going to be dived as well. Gilius still has the ultimate. The flang and drag will be duking out the way of it, but can't duke the second one as well. Gilius will be flashing away from the turret. Eclipse, does he have enough damage? He will just need a couple more seconds. Here comes a sapling. Doesn't land that one, but does have the twisted advance along with the arcane smash, and now is just a chasing game.
He's
Gilius
isolated.
Has to be careful though. Idiom will get locked up, and Eclipse takes him one-on-one with the assist going to Gilius. A 2-0 in total.
A little bit messy up in that top lane, but again, maybe that's because Eclipse, not a top lane main, didn't really preempt Kha'Zix just going into the bush, but they clean it up nonetheless, and I have to feel going into that fight, we were saying Ryze really shouldn't have stuck around. Bottom lane.
Taki is getting punished here. He will have to flash away, and the barrier comes in from the mid lane.
Easy
he does
kill.
have his ultimate, he does have his flash, but doesn't decide to go in on it.
It would have been an easy kill should he looked for it, but I feel like when you're this far ahead, another kill on a support is great, but if you can pressure out with a minion wave on the turret and force them to stick around, maybe you can get more than one kill here. Maybe Meloncats would be looking for something if it weren't for Shiage turning up.
Yeah, just the fact that he was off the map temporarily may have just been enough for them to say, okay, let's dial it back a bit. We are 6-0 over our counterparts, plus that extra tower. We have a 5,000 gold advantage, and we netted that original dragon. So far they have nothing too much to fear. But what Kha'Zix has to fear is a barrier heading up the river. Gillis coming in from behind. He will pull the old switcheroo as he jukes out of the way of the flag and drag and will get back to safety.
And if they've got nothing to fear, that might explain why Idiom is currently 0-2. He's not really finding his grounding in this game, and he has to get the ball rolling fairly soon. They're even on CS, but look at the effect that Gilius has had on this game. This is the mark of a well-experienced player, and look at the switch up here. Meloncats have put their duo lane in the mid because Zed was already winning that lane, and Tristana is so far behind that Abaria can probably just all insane if he really wants to.
Well, it's in a little bit of a precarious position.
Oh,
we'll play
top
it
lane.
safe. Top lane, everyone is converging. Here comes Gilius. Will sidestep the flag and drag. Here comes the Tana wave. Do they decide to go for this dive? Eclipse is leading a charge. He will take point, but the aggro will switch to Nami, meaning that they can make a very easy escape. Gilius takes a couple tower shots on the way out, but is quite happy with that result.
This is just good map control by Meloncats. They know exactly where the summoners are down and how much they can really pressure out. And Abaria, ooh, just from a couple of abilities, is shredding through the health of Tristana, who has picked up that Avarice Blade. We had seen, as Tristana was being played, a lot of Static Shift being picked up as a first item, but it's going to be late here. It's going to be very late compared to Trinity Force Corki, which is already completed. So he's already matched, or at least made his damage spike for this mid-game period.
Yeah, and he picked that up at around 13 minutes as a Trinity Force is quite good as you get into games like
in
this.
the bottom lane.
Abaria,
Can they
get away from this situation? There comes the Living Shadow.
Nice charm.
Scrap that. He uses his ultimate, jukes away as well. Skill shots all go awry, and Abaria makes a nice escape.
I missed about as many words in that sentence as Ari did the charm, because I was going to say nice dodge of the charm, but Shiage not quite finding it. Eclipse does eat a charm on that one.
Well, he teleported in from the top lane. That's a big cooldown to come out, especially as they weren't able to get in range, so they didn't make use of that. But honestly, one summoner spell going down for the amount of ground and acceleration they picked up in this game stress, I don't think they're going to be too concerned.
No, I really don't think they're going to be too worried about that. Let's take a quick look at the items, however. 201Z currently sat on 2,000 gold, means although he's only got a Bilgewater now, as soon as he heads back, he can either complete some of those items, maybe even look for, you know, a more aggressive set of items from this as well. I was thinking perhaps he might opt for a Hex Drinker, but that would play a little more defensively, and I don't really think he needs it right now. Sometime in this game might be very effective against the Ryze, but here's the fight.
Gilius has just locked in Sejian in the top lane with his ultimate. Crikey walks up to the fight, throws out a couple auto attacks, and those Sheen augmented auto attacks will rip him apart in no time. Gilius just get hit up by the combo from Shiage, but it's not a lot of damage, and they will start off this second dragon. And Idiom is around the side, trying to pull off a miracle steal. Throws out the Void Spikes, but decides better of it. He may even still get caught out by him, Barrier, who decides to juke back in. Oh, again, jukes the charm using his own death mark. Heads in, flash out of the way of the tidal wave, which would have secured his death, and makes a speedy retreat back to his team. Meloncats
pick up the dragon, though, and that's even more gold in the pocket of a champion like Zed. 2,500. Let's take a look at what he does end up backing with, but Meloncats are in such a good position now. They are going to get another turret. This is looking to be somewhat of a whitewash of a game.
It's just textbook all over the board by Meloncats. They are doing everything right. They pick up a kill, they pick up an objective, and the cycle repeats. It's just rinse and repeat as we head through this game, edging on the 10,000 gold mark. Only around 8,000 gold at the moment, but 17 minutes in, proportionally, that is huge.
That is a massive difference, and it leads to a big disparity in items. Take a quick look. Ari, currently on the makings of a Zhonya's. Does she have enough to convert that? No, still about 250 gold away. But her lane opponent completed Blade of the Ruined King and a Brutalizer with Mercury Treads. Makes Zed a very powerful champion to deal with here.
So, everyone will be looking to head back here. Talking about difficult champions to deal with, Gilius sitting in the jungle, the one-man Death Bush. Look to head up here. We'll be clearing up this pink ward as he spots it with his own. And just the fact that he can be so aggressive and so comfortable in the opposing jungle kind of just tells the tale of this game.
Yeah, and another tale of this game really has been the expectations of top lane. And I'll be honest, Eclipse has done a great job so far. We knew Maokai was one of the champions that he was playing and practicing, and he has done a good enough job here. He is 1-0-2, and I think that is commendable. But to some extent, the Ryze pick was a little bit questionable out of Cyborg Factory.
That being said, late game is the name of the game for Cyborg Factory. It's just a question of whether they can get there, because currently it doesn't look like that's going to happen, Stress, as they are edging on 10,000 gold behind their counterparts. 3 towers down. Can they hold the line? Can they draw that line in the sand, make sure they can go no further? And Gilius is heading around the side, seeing if he can find himself a pick.
One thing that's going to make it difficult to get through this mid-game period is the Aegis of the Legion already being completed on Nami. That's really strong against a double AP composition in this mid-game phase, and it's going to buy Meloncats a lot of time before they actually have to start worrying about any kind of magic resistance. So, Cyborg Factory somehow have to find the damage here.
And I'm not sure it's going to be coming. There is nothing behind that rallying call. Shiaj heads to the top lane. He's your laner. Go deal with him. And
easier said than done right now.
Absolutely. A barrier in the top lane. We're clearing up this minion wave, and with Gilius trying to head around the side. We'll be spawning out Taki, so we'll be able to be that aggressive that quickly. And all in all, Meloncats have kind of dispersed away from this one. A barrier. Let's take a full combo from Shiaj. And he decides to turn tail. And now red buff has spawned. It looks like the point of contention for these two junglers.
It does. Gilius. And both junglers actually have the smite available, so who gets it?
Will
looks like
be
it was
the team of Meloncats, and there's the Monsoon for the disengage. Idiom takes a huge amount of damage. Gilius has the Cataclysm, locks up Taki, will be forcing his flash as well. So summoners across the board have been burnt. Here comes a barrier, here comes a Deathmog, and there goes a dead Tristana. Crikey comes in for a very aggressive play. 1 versus 3. You are not the front line, Cookin. He will be punished for it.
That was a little bit over-aggressive from Crikey, as he is 1-1-1-1, but feels like he's far further ahead right now because of that damage spike. But top lane is still under a lot of threat here from Meloncats, and Shiaj is trying to hold it with his wave clear.
Flag, drag, here comes the tidal wave. Will be Zhonya'd out of this one. How much more CC and how much more damage do they have? Evanflow comes out, and that will be Diode finishing them off with a nice little auto attack to come out ahead on that one.
But in the middle lane, look at a barrier again, is pushing down a turret, and Idiom jumps in. This is just Zed in full split push mode. 10-1 to the kills now overall between these two teams.
And Cyborg Factory are just being juggled. They just need more members on their team to keep up with the aggression from Meloncats. And that is not something that's available in League of Legends, so they're going to have to come up with a different option.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've brought coaches into the LCS now, or in this game even bringing coaches into the game. Yeah. But I don't think that allows you actually 6 members, so that's a step further than I think we can go to. But in this game, Dragon is up 55 seconds. Meloncats are looking very comfortable because they know their composition at this point in the game has so much more damage than Cyborg Factory. Look at Tristana, has a mid-game dip anyway as a champion. And in this game, BF Sword Pickaxe, Avarice Blade, no completed item. And that is pretty much the story all the way down the list of items here for Cyborg Factory. They just do not have any competing items with Meloncats.
Yeah, their big items consist of a Rod of Ages and a Zhonya's Hourglass. That is bare bones when you compare that to the lineup of Meloncats.
Yes, indeed. Zed now even has that Ghost Blade as well, and a red potion, so if ever he was going to be strong, now is his time. As we've seen him banned out in quite a few of the games today, and just across the recent competitive times in general. And I would say that every time we have seen him, you kind of see why he's banned away.
Yeah, this game.
Yeah.
So, Crikey, the rest of the team taking away this dragon, just building up their gold total even more. A barrier in the mid lane, uses the death mark, heads on back, doesn't have enough damage with that tick from the ultimate. It will force Saiyan back to base. Gilius has found himself. Kha'Zix, however, there's the flag and drag. Oh,
the tidal wave
gets him with the tidal wave. Now comes in the Cataclysm to cut off the escape route. Taki is still cut off from his team, but a barrier doesn't have his death mark from that previous engagement. Still, a 1-for-1, a 1-for-0. Not a bad trade.
The exhaust was used onto a barrier, though, and he didn't have death mark. Typically, you want to save that as much as possible, and Meloncats are going to swing around to the top lane. However, does this leave Crikey a little bit vulnerable in the bottom lane? Should Ryze and Tristana look to engage?
Crikey playing it a little more defensively than he was perhaps doing so before. Top lane will just be falling to Meloncats. Not an objective that Cyborg Factory want to be contesting at this stage. 5-0 now in turret. Everyone heads back to base on Meloncats. Everyone has over 1,000 gold to spend in their back pocket, and edging on 2,000 gold for Crikey. And this is just going from bad to worse.
It truly is, and the CS disparity between a lot of these lanes is far more than you would really want at the 23-minute mark. This is not the performance out of Cyborg Factory that they were hoping for. But Meloncats are turning up here, and it hasn't seemed to have phased them too much with their top laner being changed.
Almost seamless heading into this game. Yes, it was a little iffy when we headed into the top lane, but it at least just reacted to those ganks. A barrier uses his Ghost Blade in the bottom lane. We'll head on to Kha'Zix regardless. The rest of the cavalry has arrived. That will mean he'll be making a hasty retreat back to his minion line. His team was there, but not as fast as Cyborg Factory's reaction.
You can see the thought process there in Barrier's mind. He was like, oh, I'll disengage this now that I've seen Kha'Zix is here, but hang on, I just half-healthed him with 2 abilities. Maybe I can actually go in. Not the case.
No, I'm leaving again.
There's 4 people there. You're not able to go in like that. But what it has allowed Meloncats to do is secure vision, and I will draw your eyes to the map control here. Here is Meloncats' vision. As you can see, they have just started the Baron, and then we take a quick look at Cyborg Factory. They don't have vision past the Wolf camp on their own side, so they have no idea this is happening.
Yep, Cyborg Factory are blinder than Lee Sin, and they will not know that this Baron is going on. And they will not be able to even contest it, nor will they be able to get a timer on it. And Meloncats, oh, Zed now has a Baron buff.
I have to feel that there's a little bit of a misplay here out by Sane. By now, he really should have that blue trinket. Charm did land.
Yeah, he actually duped into it, but we'll be going for this one-on-one against him. Meanwhile, the rest of the team, Tidal Wave was expended, heading back to the mid laners. Here comes the Zhonya's Hourglass, a barrier, not in good shape. We'll be duking out of the way of a couple skill shots. Now comes in Tristana from the side. This is very messy to kick off the fight. Eclipse comes in from the top lane, a barrier as well. He will be taking him out with his ultimate. Vengeful Maelstrom. So now Tristana heads into the jungle and makes the wise move to head back to his team and not waste time chasing.
Yeah, but look at the push out from Meloncats. They're already in front of the inhibitor turret, and right now they're going aggressive.
They have caught out Kha'Zix, and he drops where he stands. No chance of getting away. Mid turret will be dropping, and they move on promptly to this inhibitor.
That's an inhibitor falling. 3 members still dead. I wondered if Meloncats feel confident enough. Another pick may open this up, but it is a tough task to get 2 Nexus turrets, especially with Janna there as well.
Flag and drag into the AD carry, and he just explodes. Pop goes Tristana. They will be moving on to the Nexus turrets. Make that the second, make that the Nexus itself. And Meloncats find themselves a very decisive victory in the first game of this best of 3 up against Cyborg Factory.
That was a far faster game than any of our previous games today, and Meloncats certainly with a point to prove with that slightly different lineup. That was impressive.
It was impressive. That pretty much sums up the game here, Stress. It was textbook. It was doing everything that they had to do at every point in the game. and there was very few flaws in their plan. We didn't really see too many slip-ups from their play. Some of it, I guess most of it, was just looking at Eclipse that dodgy teleported in the bot lane, but other than that, a pretty solid performance.
Yeah, and he didn't die from it either, so he's 2-0-2 in that game, so fair credit to Eclipse. He found his role there pretty well.
He did indeed. So anyway, you guys, we will be prepping ourselves for the second game of this best of 3, so we will be right back after this short break.